My head is bloody, but unbowed, and I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Those are the chilling last words of Timothy McVeigh, who was executed in 2001. You might be wondering what exactly he did to be executed. Well, here is the story of the domestic terrorist. Timothy James McVeigh, a name that became synonymous with one of the deadliest acts of domestic terrorism in American history, was born on April 23, 1968, in Lockport, New York. His life story would eventually intersect with a tragic event that shook the nation to its core, the Oklahoma City bombing of April 19, 1995. This act of violence would forever leave an indelible mark on the collective memory of the United States, prompting reflections on the roots of extremism, the dangers of radical ideologies, and the impact of domestic terrorism. McVeigh's early life appeared relatively ordinary on the surface. He grew up in a working-class family in Pendleton, New York, and was described by those who knew him as reserved and introverted. He joined the U.S. Army in 1988 and served as a gunner in the Persian Gulf War, an experience that would have a profound impact on his worldview. While his military service earned him various commendations, it also exposed him to the brutality and destruction of warfare. It was during his time in the military that McVeigh began to immerse himself in extremist ideologies and conspiracy theories. He developed an intense animosity toward the federal government, fueled by his perception of government overreach and his interpretation of events like the Ruby Ridge standoff in 1992 and the Waco siege in 1993. These incidents, involving confrontations between law enforcement and anti-government groups, galvanized McVeigh's already existing resentments. McVeigh's radicalization was further accelerated by his encounters with far-right literature and individuals who shared his anti-government sentiments. He absorbed the writings of figures like Robert J. Matthews, who founded the white supremacist group The Order, and William Pierce, author of the Turner Diaries, a novel that served as a blueprint for violent revolution against the government. These influences helped solidify McVeigh's belief in the need for direct action to combat what he saw as an oppressive government. On the morning of April 19, 1995, McVeigh carried out his heinous plan. He parked a rental truck loaded with a lethal mixture of ammonium nitrate fertilizer and fuel oil outside the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City. The building housed various federal agencies, including a daycare center. At precisely 9/2, the massive explosion tore through the building, resulting in a catastrophic loss of life and widespread destruction. The bombing claimed the lives of 168 people, including 19 children, and left over 600 others injured. The blast caused a significant portion of the federal building to collapse, leaving a crater in its wake. The shockwaves of the explosion shattered glass in nearby buildings and sent debris flying for blocks. The images of the building's facade reduced to rubble, and the stories of survivors trapped beneath the debris left an indelible impact on the nation's psyche. McVeigh's motivations for committing such a heinous act were rooted in his extreme anti-government and anti-authority beliefs. He saw the federal government as a tyrannical entity infringing upon the liberties of ordinary citizens. He believed that he was engaging in a form of retaliation against perceived government abuses, particularly in incidents involving standoffs with anti-government groups. The Waco siege, which resulted in the deaths of 76 people, including many children, was a particular flashpoint for McVeigh. He saw the government's actions as unjust and used it as a rallying cry to justify his own violent response. McVeigh's writings and statements revealed his belief in the idea of collateral damage as a means to an end where the loss of innocent lives was acceptable in his pursuit of an ideological goal. In the wake of the bombing, a massive manhunt ensued for McVeigh. He was apprehended shortly after the attack as he was stopped by law enforcement officers for a traffic violation and subsequently linked to the bombing. McVeigh's trial began in 1997, during which he was found guilty on 11 federal charges, including conspiracy to use a weapon of mass destruction and 8 counts of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to death. On June 11, 2001, McVeigh's sentence was carried out through lethal injection at the United States Penitentiary in Terre Haute, Indiana. His execution marked the culmination of a legal process that sought to hold him accountable for the lives lost and the devastation he had caused. However, it did little to assuage the pain and grief experienced by the victims' families and survivors. The Oklahoma City bombing had profound and lasting effects on the United States. It served as a wake-up call to the nation's vulnerabilities to domestic terrorism and the danger posed by radicalized individuals who were willing to resort to violence to further their beliefs. The incident prompted a reevaluation of security protocols, the strengthening of anti-terrorism measures, and increased scrutiny of extremist groups and individuals.